ceremony, where the government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and the Unitary Platform of Venezuela will sign two separate agreements in the framework of the Venezuelan negotiation process. The parties will sign a partial agreement on the promotion of political rights and electoral guarantees for all, and they will sign a partial agreement for the protection of the vital interests of the nation. Before we start, we would like to acknowledge the presence of the following. His Excellency, Mr. Alvaro Leiva, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Colombia. His Excellency, Mr. Celso Amorim, Special Advisor for International Affairs of Brazil. His Excellency, Mr. Floris Jan Roelef van Dort, the Netherlands. His Excellency, Efraín Guadarrama from Mexico. His Excellency, Mr. Sergei Bagdasarov, Ambassador of Russia to Venezuela. Her Excellency, Ms. Linda Taglialatela, U.S. Ambassador to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean, and the OECS. His Excellency, Mr. Francisco Palmieri, Chief of Mission, U.S. Venezuela Affairs Unit. His Excellency, Mr. Scott Fursedon Wood, British High Commissioner to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. Her Excellency, Ms. Malgorzata Vasilevska, EU Ambassador to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean States, the OECS, and CARIFORUM. His Excellency, Mr. Ciro Luciano Siliberto Infante, Ambassador of Argentina to Barbados. His Excellency, Mr. Francis Etienne, Ambassador of France to Barbados, St. Lucia, and the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. And Ms. Marta Ortega Peraza, Venezuelan Chargée d'Affaires. In today's ceremony, following a brief statement from the representatives of Barbados as host country and Norway as facilitating country, the government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and the Unitary Platform of Venezuela will sign the two partial agreements. I will then proceed to read the partial agreement on the promotion of political rights and electoral guarantees for all, and to conclude, the representative from the facilitating country, Norway, will read the joint communiqué of the parties. And after the ceremony, the parties will be available to the media. And now we will proceed in Spanish. Bienvenidos a la ceremonia de hoy, en la cual el Gobierno de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela y la Plataforma Unitaria de Venezuela firmarán
platform and the government will sign two separate agreements. The parties have signed agreement on the rights for everybody and for the protection of the interests of the country. In the ceremony today, after a brief declaration of the representatives from Barbados as the host country and Norway as the facilitator, the government of Venezuela and the Unitary Platform, they will sign the two partial agreements. I will therefore then read the two partial agreements. To conclude, the representative of Norway will read the agreement of the parties. Afterwards, the parties will be at the disposition of the press. Vamos a comenzar.
By Acting Minister of Foreign Affairs of Barbados, Mr. the Most Honorable Jerome Walcott. Comenzaremos con unas palabras de bienvenida del Ministro de Relaciones Exteriores en funciones, el Honorable Jerome Walcott. Tiene la palabra. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and good evening. Mr. Dag Nylander, the lead facilitator and head of the Norwegian delegation. Mr. Jorge Rodriguez, head of the delegation of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Mr. Gerardo Blight, head of the delegation of the Unitary Platform of Venezuela. Mr. Efraín Guadarrama, Director General of the Regional Integration in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mexico. Members of the delegation of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Members of the delegation of the Unitary Platform of Venezuela. Excellencies, friends. I'm pleased to welcome you here this afternoon for this most historic occasion. I also bring greetings from my Prime Minister, the Honorable Mayor Amor Motley, who regrettably could not be here for the conclusion of these important negotiations. What we are witnessing here today has been the culmination of a process that started here in Barbados in 2019, and here we are 4 years hence to host its conclusion. One of the more important takeaways from this process has been the need to keep the communication channels open and a willingness to engage in dialogue. This, for us, has been a hallmark of the negotiations. We thank Norway for providing the facilitators whose perseverance. Our gratitude goes out to Mexico for serving as the host country for this round of negotiations. We also thank the accompanying countries of the Netherlands and Russia for seeing the process through to its completion. The conclusion of these negotiations and what they portend has major significance, not only for the people of Venezuela, but also for all Caribbean states, where there is recognition of the Caribbean Sea as a zone of peace. This is a message that Barbados and its regional neighbors have been repeating in all regional and international fora, and that it is never too late for dialogue. Venezuela has always been helpful to the Caribbean whenever energy crises have loomed, from the San Jose Accord in the 1980s to the Petro-Caribe Energy Initiative in 2005. Venezuela has been to support us. Now that the process has been concluded and Venezuela moves towards regaining its economic independence, we are looking forward in the very near future to a Petro-Caribe II arrangement. Just as dialogue has brought a positive outcome in this process, we, as members of the Caribbean community, look forward to continued dialogue with Venezuela on matters of regional interest. The next few months will be very important for Venezuela. Barbados pledges its support as you implement the provisions of the agreement. We stand ready to play our part. I'm obliged to you, and thank you.
Thank you. Gracias. We will proceed with some words from the head of delegation of Norway, the facilitating country, Mr. Dag Nylander. Continuaremos con unas palabras del jefe de la delegación de Noruega, el país facilitador, el señor Dag Nylander.
Muy buenas tardes a todas y todos.
To everybody.
Gratitude to the government of Barbados, and in particular to Prime Minister Motley and her acting Foreign Minister Walcott. Thank you for welcoming us so generously to your beautiful country. I would also like to welcome Director General Efrain Guadarrama, representative of Mexico, in accordance with the Memorandum of Understanding of 13 August 2021. En nombre de Noruega y nuestro canciller, es un gran placer anunciar que la mesa de diálogo y negociación entre el gobierno bolivariano de Venezuela y la Plataforma Unitaria de Venezuela ha logrado avances significativos en temas esenciales para el pueblo venezolano. El empeño de actores internacionales y nacionales ha sido clave para crear las condiciones para llegar a los resultados de
actors
hoy.
that national and international have been important in getting to the agreements that we have today. According to the MOU that was signed in Mexico, I hope that the agreements that was signed today will contribute to what the parties have agreed. Clear rules of living together and social accord in Venezuela. So I would like to congratulate the both groups. I would like to point out the heads of government, Jorge Rodriguez and Gerardo Blight, who have to get over the polarization, it could be a difficult job, but the will that they both have shown in these last 2 weeks has shown what can be achieved when everybody is looking for the best for Venezuela. There is still a lot of work to be done. However, I think that today is an important step towards having some lasting solution for Venezuela. Nevertheless, it is an effort that the international community has welcomed. As we see here, the countries that are accompanying here, the Netherlands and Russia, and the other international actors that are here. Finally, I would like to point out a point that continues to be very important for the living together harmoniously in Venezuela. It will always be in the hands of the Venezuelan people and their representatives to solve their problems. We would like to take advantage of this moment to have some progress made for the people of Venezuela, and hopefully this will be help us for a solution, not only for the Venezuelan but the people of the region. Thank you very much.
We will now proceed with the signing of the two partial agreements. We kindly ask the heads of delegations, Mr. Jorge Rodriguez and Mr. Gerardo Blythe, to approach the signing table, accompanied by Mr. Walcott, Mr. Guadarrama, and Mr. Nylander. Procederemos ahora a la firma de los acuerdos. Rogamos a los jefes de delegación, el señor Jorge Rodríguez y el señor Gerardo Blythe,
Mr. Blythe to approach the signing table, accompanied by Mr. Walcott, Mr. Guadarrama, and Mr. Nylander. We will begin on this table with the signing of the three partial agreements, and then we will continue to the next table to sign the 3 copies of the second partial agreement.
And we now invite the following to proceed with the signing. Invitamos ahora a los siguientes a proceder a la firma. Nicolás Ernesto Madura Guerra. Roberto Enríquez. Francisco Torrealba. Stalin González. Ah, ahí. Génesis Garbet. Tomás Guanipa. Diva Guzmán. Mariela Magallanes. Gabriela Jiménez. Luis Aquiles Moreno. Camila Fabri de Sab. Luis Emilio Rondón. Larry Devo. Claudia Nicken. Y William Castillo. Muchas gracias. I will now read the partial agreement on the promotion of political rights and electoral guarantees for all in Spanish. A continuación, leeré el acuerdo parcial sobre la promoción de derechos políticos y garantías electorales para todos. Acuerdo parcial sobre
Partial agreement on electoral rights and guarantees for everybody.
como el Gobierno de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela y la Plataforma Unitaria de Venezuela, actuando de conformidad con lo previsto en el memorando de entendimiento
That is
suscrito el 13 de agosto de
signed
2021
the 13th of
en Ciudad de
August
México, Estados
2000
Unidos,
in Mexico,
actuando bajo el
acting
de la Constitución
under
de
the
la República Bolivariana de Venezuela, la Ley Orgánica de Procesos Electorales y demás normas aplicables. Comprometidos con el fortalecimiento de una democracia inclusiva y una cultura de tolerancia y convivencia política. Ratificando la voluntad de acordar las condiciones necesarias para que se lleven a cabo los procesos electorales consagrados en la Constitución con todas las garantías, rechazando cualquier forma de violencia política en contra de Venezuela, su Estado y sus instituciones,
and its institutions.
atendiendo a lo previsto en los numerales 1 y 2
Seeing, bear in mind what's in number one. That has to do with political rights for everyone and electoral guarantees for everyone, and based on what is in number 2 contained in the Memorandum of Understanding. As the parties recognize and respect of each political actor to choose their candidate for presidential elections freely. Bear in mind what is established in the Constitution of Venezuela and the law. Second, the parties will promote together the Electoral Council a number of electoral guarantees for all the actors for the coming presidential elections. Bearing in mind what is in the Constitution of Venezuela, the organic law, and thirdly, the electoral guarantees for all the actors to which this partial agreement refers. It will include the following aspects. One, to propose that the electoral process for the presidency will be done in the second semester in 2024, in accordance to the constitutional chronogram. Special days of inscription, campaigns to promote except in the whole of Venezuelan territory with the witnesses of the political actors. I will send you ID identification for the whole country in conformity with the law of the country, and have the effect of development of all the auditors that has been with participation of all the political actors and the international observers according to the electoral law. The request for technical observers, as was agreed, including European Union, the United Nations panel, African Union, and the Carter Center from the point of view to observe the process. We are taking the law, always bearing in mind without any prejudice to the rights of the political actors. Number 5, the promotion of a public discussion favorable to the development of an electoral process, pacific, without any interference, outside interference. The parties reject any kind of violence in this process, any kind of action that an attempt on the territorial integrity of Venezuela. I exhort all the political actors and public figures to respect these electoral norms during the development of their campaign, to ask the competent authorities to adopt of measures to guarantee the security and the liberty of circulation of all the candidates in the whole of the territory, national territory, with the only limitations being what is enshrined in the Constitution and law. That to be any measure that can take away the rights of the political actors should be removed. That the Politica should have financing, transparent financing. Promotion of communication for all, that all actors should have access to the media, whether it's national, regional, and international media in public spaces that according in the framework of what is in the Constitution. Last, all the media, local, national, and international, to cover the electoral campaign to be in accordance with what is enshrined in the Constitution and the law. It will promote the participation of all the presidential candidates so long as they conform to the requirements to participate in the presidential election. According to the law of Venezuela and the Constitution, to publicly recognition of the results of the electoral process. Fourth, the parties will make sure that what they agree is applicable according to the chronogram of the future. Fifth, in agreement with the point 7 of the agenda that has agreed, the parties have a mechanism which will with them. In the MOU, the parties will continue the process of negotiation with respect to other measures that will be pointing to a culture of tolerance and convenience and respect to human rights, bearing in mind that they have
Gracias.
Thank you. Mr. Dagny va a concluir
Communique of the parties. El señor Dagny Lander concluirá ahora esta ceremonia con la lectura del comunicado conjunto de las partes.
Comunicado conjunto número 5. Dando seguimiento al memorando de entendimiento suscrito el 13 de agosto de 2021 en la Ciudad de México, el gobierno de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela y la Plataforma Unitaria de Venezuela han retomado el proceso de
taken over the process of negotiation on the process in Venezuela. In this session today in Barbados, the parties signed a partial agreement on political rights and guarantees for all, bearing in mind that the number 1 and 2 of the it has to do with political rights for everybody and electoral guarantees for everybody. They also signed a partial agreement for in the interest of the country to preserve the assets of the country and to defend the sovereignty of Venezuelan country. Finally, they thank the facilitator from the Kingdom of Norway and Russia and and the Netherlands and Barbados for being the host. The ceremony
To the
is
media in this part of the room. Gracias. La ceremonia ha concluido. Las partes estarán ahora a disposición de los medios de comunicación en la sala vecina.
in the adjoining room.
Para que me caiga. Nosotros estamos listos. Listo. Vamos a dar una declaración y después algunas preguntas que ustedes quieran hacer, pero me están pidiendo que falte un momento. No hay problema. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco. ¿Lo pego más? ¿Se escucha? De acuerdo. Bueno, muy buenas tardes a todos los periodistas.
Good afternoon to all the media who have been here seeing this signing. In the name of the platform that I'm here with, we want to give a declaration, and then we can open ourselves to some questions that you might want to ask. Today we're in Barbados signing this agreement, which was motivated by the commitment that we have assumed as Venezuelans from the time we started this process of negotiation with the main objective of to stop the suffering of our country. We are passing through the worst social crisis, political and economic there. And we Venezuelans need these agreements not only to achieve the political goals and help us to have our economy back, and so that each Venezuelan would have a life that is dignified along with its people, and so that our children can grow in Venezuela. This is the objective of our process of negotiation. During these last two long years since we began in Mexico, we have insisted, public and privately, on the need to have a negotiated solution with those who are in power. Today, we can announce that constant struggle, both by Venezuelans as our international allies, has given its first step to develop the electoral process with concrete guarantees, and to, in this way, achieve the political change. Today we signed an important agreement. We gave a solid step on the road so that we can recover our confidence in the vote. The vote which includes guarantees so that the processes of our candidates as respected, and the process is respected. And from now until next Sunday, 22nd in Venezuela, when it will begin. So to a route so that those who haven't got their political rights can get them back. Three, the European, the witnesses come of the Carter, European Union, and others. 4, to define an electoral chronogram during the second semester of 2024. 5, updating of the electoral lists, including those who are living overseas. 7, all the auditors that the Venezuelan system needs. 8, access to the media on all the candidates, both national, international. And 9, a mechanism of verification and follow-up, which is very important to see that the agreements are implemented. This is another step on the road. It's important. We all Venezuelans must contribute to the materialization of this agreement and to be together. So we should be together in every voting center, in every city, observing to make sure that all the will of all of us is guaranteed. And this process is now going to all the agenda that is contained in that memorandum of understanding. That is to achieve the welfare of the people of Venezuela, democracy and tolerance and political tolerance. This is something very basic for all of us, the respect for human rights. We give thanks for the facilitation that they expect. Norway has been exercising. We thank the support, give thanks for the support of the international bodies here, because it's very important for us that the Venezuelans, that we keep this force together and we create history. Again, we give thanks to the government of Barbados for being our host for the signing of this agreement. This is the declaration, the joint declaration that we will make to the Venezuelans wherever they are and in the territory itself, and to the international community. We would like to accept any questions in the time that is left to us. If there are no questions, then we will leave so that the other side can have their say. Thank you very much.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Muy buenas tardes
Good afternoon.
a toda nuestra patria amada,
Welcome, our lovely,
Aquí.
beloved country, who accompany our dear President Nicolas Maduro.
le dedicamos todos nuestros
Dedicate
toda la fuerza
all this force of our hearts.
trascendental como el día de
It's
hoy,
this transcendental day like today.
catalogar como histórico
I do not doubt in calling it as historic day because it's a first step on the road.
el deseo que tenemos
The desire that we have, all Venezuelans have,
de que
to
sanciones
so that the sanctions
pongan solo agentes contra nuestro pueblo,
that's against our country,
gratuitas,
the
afectan
gratuitous
sobre todo
aggressions that affect the most vulnerable, our children,
nuestros abuelos,
our grandparents, our women.
esas sanciones
Those sanctions
que han atacado
have attacked
la trama social, la trama económica,
the economic,
la cotidianidad
social life
cada una de nosotras
of
y de
each
cada
one of
uno de
us.
nosotros sea levantada
We would like them
progresiva.
raised. That's the first step.
De
That
un acuerdo
an
mucho más
agreement,
amplio,
much wider agreement,
plena evolución
is being evolved
su ejecución.
in its execution. In the
Podremos ver
days to come,
de los
we will
resultados
see some of the results
como corolario el acuerdo
have
que se ha firmado el día de hoy
as the start this agreement that we signed today with some sectors of the Venezuelan opposition.
cualquier
If you ask any Venezuelan
si es trabajador,
if he's whether it's a working businessman, a student, or teacher,
nos acompaña,
if they agree with us with the struggle,
tiene interés por la política,
if they have an interest
oposiciones
for
de
politics,
manera unánime
unanimously they will say
deben ser levantadas
that they should,
todas las sanciones.
all the sanctions should be lifted against Venezuelan country.
Primer paso.
And today we have given a first step
De la suscripción
through this signing of a partial agreement in the framework of the negotiations,
de entendimiento
the MOU that was signed in Mexico,
parcial,
a partial agreement
las garantías
for the guarantees,
y electorales
both political and electoral,
comicios
with a view to the coming elections. Political guarantees and electoral guarantees
están
that
sustentadas
are
en el muy sólido sistema electoral
sustained in the very solid
que es un sistema electoral
electoral system that Venezuela has. That is the envy of the whole world.
que están en nuestra
Guarantees that are in our laws,
están en nuestra
guarantees that are in our constitution, guarantees that are in the process, electoral process, guarantees
todo
in all the
a las elecciones
constitutional
electoral
that has to do with the electoral process in Venezuela.
que quienes en el pasado convocaron a la violencia,
Those who in the past asked people to have sanctions, to have violence, to call for
todo de nuestra constitución,
activities that were out of order in Venezuela.
acuerdo parcial
Now we have signed a partial agreement which we all agree on.
todos nos
We all commit ourselves to peace,
construir un clima de tolerancia política,
to build a climate of tolerance.
respetar la
We
Constitución
all agree to
bolivariana de Venezuela.
respect the Constitution of Venezuela.
Debemos a respetar las leyes
We
electorales,
commit to respect the laws, the electoral laws. This have been a consensus, those laws. We all commit to respect the results, and we all commit to deal with our constitutional matters as the Constitution asks us legally. The electoral good and the constitutional and pacific is the way to go. In the past,
que otros eran los caminos, hoy asumen de manera valiente y por eso felicito también al doctor Gerardo Blay y también a los delegados de la plataforma unitaria de Venezuela por asumir de manera valiente todos los elementos relacionados con las garantías electorales que proporcionan la Constitución, las leyes y el sistema
Constitution and the electoral system of Venezuela. They have all agreed to that. Those are the steps that we are taking today to these steps. These rights will be developed in the future. This should promote the tolerance and the search for dialogue against the aggressions, the sanctions, and the invasions against this so-called military coups. We are going to have elections, and who wins. And one of the most important points is that result will be recognized by everyone, all the political actors, and also by the people of Venezuela. So we are very happy for this first step. We are quite pleased that this process of lifting sanctions so that we can continue constructing the country, our economy that had been asphyxiated and is still asphyxiated because of those sanctions. So we'll have a process of alimentation so that Venezuela can recover its economy, so that the people of Venezuela can construct their future with on their own feet, with their own hands, with their own activities, with their own desire to grow in this very beautiful country that God gave us. So today, we have signed a partial agreement which is of major importance because it has to do with what is the defense of what is our heritage, the defense of what belongs to the people of Venezuela, the defense of our territory. And this has been signed by this sector of the Venezuelan opposition, and it has been signed by the representative of the President Nicolas Maduro. It's important that all the people of Venezuela, that another agreement was signed. It's called a partial agreement. The parties that and the platform and the government agree an MOU on the MOU of Mexico was signed.
Reivindicando como derechos irrenunciables de la nación la independencia, la libertad, la soberanía, la inmunidad, la integridad territorial y la autodeterminación nacional. Recordando el acuerdo para la ratificación y defensa de la soberanía
of the sovereignty of Venezuela on the Guayana Archipelago, recognizing the need to to have a future together for all the Venezuelans based on that are contained in the MOU that I have mentioned before. First, to ratify our historic rights on the territory of Guyana Essequibo, and to reject the agreement in Geneva, insisting that the parties of that agreement should negotiate on this question of the Guyana.
En contravención del derecho internacional relacionadas con el otorgamiento de concesiones de exploración y exploración energética en áreas marinas pendientes de delimitar entre los dos
mention
incluso en áreas que son jurisdicción
granting of rights for exploration in that area that has been that is in this
defender los bienes y la propiedad de la empresa
discussion,
Petroleum Corporation para preservar los intereses vitales,
so that those countries that are exploring that area should respect the rights of Venezuelans to that territory.
Así como para la defensa de la integridad territorial venezolana y la soberanía nacional. Ofrezco excusa por haber leído el texto, pero por alguna curiosidad de la facilitación no fue debidamente leído en el auditorio antes de ser firmado. Hoy también se firmó este acuerdo parcial por parte de la autodenominada plataforma unitaria y por parte del gobierno de la República Bolivariana. Son buenas noticias. Es auspicioso que todos nos pongamos de acuerdo en los próximos días. El presidente Nicolás Maduro y su gobierno iniciarán un proceso of consultation
with the other sectors of the opposition in Venezuela,
con otros sectores de la vida social y económica,
sectors of the social and economic life in the country, the academic sectors, to sign agreement of this type so that we will all be in the same page, so that we can reconstruct the great country that is ours in Venezuela. We'll be quite happy to answer any questions that may be asked.
Saber un poco en el día de ayer el presidente que se estaban manipulando y se estaban tergiversando cosas. Se sembró una matriz de que el acuerdo venía condicionado. Es cierto que esto incluye monitoreo de las elecciones por parte de los observadores. Es cierto que el acuerdo estableció habilitaciones de los candidatos. También se incluye este acuerdo el levantamiento de las sanciones. ¿Y qué diferencia hay entre este acuerdo y el resto de los que se firmó en anteriores oportunidades en México?
Sí, correcto. En primer lugar, hay una decisión tomada
the lifting of sanctions.
en el sentido de que los contenidos
the
que
content
estos acuerdos tienen
of these agreements
no podían ser filtrados,
have
no
not
podían ser
been
entregados,
filtered, they have not been handed out.
o el documento en su totalidad no puede ser entregado.
Document that has not
Nosotros
been
leímos con mucha
given
atención lo que
to
salió
third
publicado ayer,
parties.
qué curioso, en algunos medios de comunicación de los Estados Unidos de América.
We have seen
Con
it,
mucha atención
however, in
leímos una
some
filtración clara,
sections of
flagrante,
the North
de las
American media,
negociaciones que venían avanzando en The Washington Post,
in the
en la
Washington
agencia
Post,
Bloomberg,
in the
y allí
Bloomberg
no solamente se
agency,
nota
not only the BBC
filtración artera,
that
sino que se nota
has
la
been
tergiversación,
filtered,
la mentira,
and that
la
this
intención
has
de
been
dañar este acuerdo, que incluso lo que procuraba era
you can see that there was the intention
afortunadamente ocurrió hoy.
that we were hoping that what happened today should not happen, because the
Sencillamente
publications, they changed up many of the things that were in, so they were hoping that this agreement that we signed today would not be signed. I said something. They tried with the power that they have and the press and the media It says that the ceremonies will
Organización
be
internacional.
monitored
Eso
by
es sencillamente ilegal. En Venezuela hay unas leyes
in,
electorales. En Venezuela hay una
in
constitución de la
Venezuela
República
there's a
Bolivariana de
constitution.
Venezuela. Y no puede venir ningún
No,
extranjero
no
a monitorear nada.
foreigners can come in
Las
to
misiones de
monitor
observación,
anything. The observations,
misiones de acompañamiento electoral
the
tienen una reglamentación
observers
muy clara y muy
have a very
estricta
clear
establecida por el Consejo Nacional Electoral. En consecuencia, lo que se dice es lo que se dice siempre. Se
way of
invitará
their support. What it says always,
técnicas
we
de
will invite
de la
technical
técnicas de
missions.
observación,
Yeah.
técnicas
I
de
repeat,
observación
observation,
de la Unión Africana,
technicians,
de la Unión de
observations
Organismos
from
Electorales
Europe,
Interamericana
from Africa,
Unidores, del panel experto de Naciones Unidas,
from the United Nations, and from the Carter Center.
no tienen
Missions of
absolutamente
observation.
ninguna posibilidad
They don't have any possibility of to get involved in anything
electoral.
in the electoral event. They're simply observers,
Muy clara
and they have a very clear
antes de iniciar sus funciones como observadores.
idea of how they're supposed to function as observers.
Luego está el tema de
Then there's the question of
que si allí se empezaron a mencionar cosas
they began to mention things
candidatos,
about some
candidatas,
candidates,
otros, que si
and
puede participar,
if this one can participate and this
que
other
si
can
una
participate.
cosa, un evento catastrófico que está transcurriendo en Venezuela que se ha denominada primaria. Lo primero que debo decir es que, por supuesto, un acuerdo de esa trascendencia no puede atender algo tan minúsculo como eso. Eso es algo interno de cada
This is
organización.
something that is
Eso es algo
internal,
que, si a ellos les
their
da,
party.
les provoca hacer ese
They
evento de desarrollo,
wish
es
to
una decisión.
do something,
Es una decisión
that's their
absolutamente,
decision.
autóctona de cada persona y de cada grupo político. No va a venir un acuerdo
There has not been any agreement.
donde vamos hacia el objetivo
They're going
supremo
to honor the supreme objective of the
donde se
lifting of the
establecen los
sanctions.
mecanismos de participación
When we
político
establish
electoral para todos los factores
mechanisms
políticos,
of
ocuparse de una
participation,
minoría de esas características.
we cannot be dealing
La alusión que
with
se hace,
minor
se
topics.
promoverá la autorización a todos los candidatos presidenciales y partidos políticos, siempre que cumplan, repito,
That will
siempre que
protect
cumplan
the rights of all
con los requisitos
political
establecidos para
parties, so
participar
long as
en la
they
elección presidencial,
fulfill
con los procedimientos
requirements
contenidos en la ley venezolana. ¿Cuál es la ley
for
venezolana?
participation according with the law of Venezuela.
A los requisitos y a los derechos
No, what does-
políticos de la gente.
what does-
La Constitución,
So long as they have,
la ley orgánica de procesos electorales,
they agree
la ley
and they are
de
complying
Contraloría,
with
una ley
the
orgánica también, que todo ello
laws.
tiene el tramado a través del cual se establecen los requisitos para participar. Porque si, por
In
ejemplo,
all those laws,
eres menor
you
de edad
can see the conditions under which they can participate.
y que no puede participar,
For example, it says if you're
si usted
a
nació
minor, you
fuera de
can't
Venezuela, la
you
Constitución
can't
dice que no
participate.
puede ser.
If you were born outside of Venezuela, the constitution says you can't be a candidate.
Y
If
si
you
usted fue sentenciado por ese crimen,
were sentenced for a crime,
usted no puede ser.
you can't be a
Y si
candidate.
usted recibió una
And if you
inhabilitación
received
administrativa por el
some
órgano que
administrative,
a quien le corresponde desde el punto de vista
veto,
constitucional y legal, que es la Contraloría General de la República, pues tampoco
well,
puede
you can't
ser candidato.
be a
Aclarar
candidate.
eso, porque
I'm
en este
clarifying that
proceso,
because
el
in this
párrafo se
process,
refería a los derechos
the
de todos,
paragraph
que no tenga
refers
ninguna
to
otra
the rights of
disposición que no
all.
sea la que está establecida en la Constitución y las leyes de la
So you don't have rights that are not except those that are established in the
Los
Constitution.
medios y las agencias internacionales fue buscando la manera de tergiversar algo que está completamente
International media has been trying to distort
de la plataforma
what
unitaria y
was saying.
al firmar este documento.
But
Por
this
presentación,
document that the platform and ourselves have signed
pintar la raya, en
to
resumen,
put, establish the basis for an agreement.
que está en este momento jugando contra Chile. Pintar la cancha para las venideras elecciones presidenciales del
Next
año
we will
2024,
set out
que
the
se
framework
realizarán en el
for
segundo semestre del año 2024.
the elections that will be held in 2024.
Siguiente.
Mariana Mata Dugarte, venezolana de televisión. Doctor, han dicho que las
They have
negociaciones con sectores opositores no terminan acá en
the
estos acuerdos que se han firmado en Barbados.
Discussions are not going to finish here. Do you have any further agreements in thinking of? As I mentioned before, we have meetings with all and everyone, all those who want
Y los activos de Venezuela en el extranjero, pues que vengan y que firmemos un acuerdo
those
que entre todas y todos podamos incrementar la
all who
fuerza
want to
de defensa
participate
que pertenece
in the
la incorporación
defense
a
of
los
the
diferentes
territory of
consultores
Venezuela, and
convocados por la
especially
Asamblea
where
Nacional del
Guyana
Partido
and Essequibo is
hagan
concerned.
acogida en los corazones y en las mentes de todo nuestro pueblo. Y también hay otros actores políticos.
Yeah, the political
No solamente está la
actors.
plataforma unitaria.
It's not only the
Hay otros
platform,
actores de oposición
unitary
que han
platform.
surgido de manera novedosa
The
en los
others
últimos tiempos, que han
who
participado
recently have
en los
participated
eventos electorales.
in
Una
the
importante representación
electoral
parlamentaria.
events, who have
Tiene
representatives in the
60,
parliament,
40 alcaldías en Venezuela de las 335 alcaldías que
we
tiene
have
el
some
país.
a number of mayorships who aspire to having a voice, having a participation in the next elections.
Y que se busque, como ellos
And
entienden,
we would like them to incorporate and so that they can have an agreement so that we can all be
una vía
in the constitutional path,
electoral en medio de un clima y una cultura
in
de tolerancia que
a
todas y
climate of
todos
tolerance so that we can all share.
a todas.
Thank you very much. Se escucha el reportero que está hablando. That's it.